This one is from at Gent Cringe.
You don't have
name. Okay. Explain to me what extended/multi-scale guitars are for. I think we talked about this before, but it's okay to go in more depth.
I've heard that you have a more precise tuning with them, like when you hit certain chords. I've heard this.
Yep.
I remember Misha Mansour had this, like, I think it was a Mayan's guitar that had those frets that weren't fanned, but they were like...
Oh, for the intonation.
They're like calibrated, or I forget what the term is, but they are not straight. They're
Were
like,
they was the fret wire like wavy?
Yeah.
It was. They were individual small little frets for each string. It was wavy, right?
Yeah, same number of frets, but like wavy.
Perfect.
And I think each one was like, it wasn't
waved a little bit because
Yeah.
it accounted for like so what that's for is to get perfect intonation.
Yeah.
So you technically can't get. I guess you can get really close to. It doesn't matter what you use. You're not going to get perfect intonation because of all the variables that affect tuning, right?
Yeah.
Those do help for intonation because of how everything's spread out across the fretboard. So I have seen people use them. I've seen Steve Vai use them before, but Steve Vai will do anything to a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he'll fucking yeah.
Yeah.
He'll like get cat fur like woven into the fucking strings and say, you know, call it his feline line or something like that. But now extended multi-scale mainly, you know, there's several uses, but I would argue the biggest one is because, and you run into this with let's start with the problem. With regular guitars that aren't multi-scale, all these back here, they have, they use a really thick string at the top and a really skinny one at the bottom, right? Well, skinny top, heavy bottom. And so what happens is that big, thick E string has to be, on a regular scale guitar, has to have a certain tension to meet that type of pitch tuning, right? The thing is, with something like this, if you really want to down tune and get a really thick like E string or set of strings up there, you have to release the tension. There's got to be a lot of tension release, which makes it the amplitude of the string higher, and it gets a little bit more floppy and less clear and precise.
And you're supposed to almost always have tension on guitars, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to ever like just take the strings off.
I think it's supposed to be just like on there,
Yeah.
like, a little bit. You know, I don't use a tuner. I just play by ear.
Yeah.
And you know, it usually sounds okay. I haven't got a record deal yet, but yeah.
Okay.
But if you give on a multi-scale guitar, how it differs is you actually, if you look at the top string, let's just say the thick E string, it is actually way longer than the small E string. And that's because when you have a string that's over a longer distance, the tension has to be higher. So you get greater tension with those lower strings, and you get more clarity, more concise, it gets more concise.
You're talking about having like a baritone extended range, or are you talking about...
Yeah, because, I mean, I wouldn't say all the way, I don't know how long baritones are, but on a multi-scale guitar, like the fan frets,
Yeah.
it's usually around like a 27 scale.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the bottom one, the high E string, is usually around like 25, you know, generally. And that can vary. But the big thing is that those thicker strings are spread out over longer distance, meaning they need more tension. So there's actually more equal tension throughout all the strings. And people like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played multi-scale guitars, and I've noticed that while it looks weird, I don't really play much different.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't feel much
It doesn't feel much different. No. So...